Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. If you get a chance, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join the football family. I'm Peter Martin. Charlie Adam and Alison McConnell are here with me to look ahead to the weekend's football across Saturday and Sunday. You can give us your point of view as well. Don't forget, if you download the PLZ Soccer app, you can actually record yourself with anything that's bugging you about the game, not only here in Scotland, the UK, right across the world. If you're man enough to get your face and we use it on here, we'll send you something nice. Simple as that. Lots of things to get our teeth into. We'll be talking random vaccine checks, World Cup bids, Robbie Nielsen and Jack Ross head to head. Gerrard offers a pathway to the first team for the kids. Kyogo could be out for a month, and of course Ronaldo's return. That's just a few of the things that we'll be delving into. Hopefully that whets your appetite. But first and foremost, this vaccine passport is gathering pace. How it's going to be funded, how they're going to do it, is it going to be accepted as random checks, is the big problem, whether the government will allow a bit of leeway.
It's interesting, isn't it? I can see both sides of the argument, but I think in the current climate, when numbers are accelerating and going up, I think you have to be mindful of keeping things as safe as possible and more importantly, keeping it going. I think the last thing you want to do is jeopardise anything. I think it's been fantastic this season to go back into a stadium and feel the energy and feel the different vibe of having supporters back. I think the last thing you want to do is lose that again or have restrictions on numbers because numbers become so high again. So if that means going for the passport, then I think that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was watching an interview, not even an interview, an address from the President of the United States. 200 million have already had the vaccine. He just said, what more do you need? What more proof do you need? You know, I don't think people think, in any way about putting a passport to get into another country with restrictions that other countries have. And I'm not talking about COVID, I just mean in general for you to get about and abide by certain countries' laws. So in this case, with the safety, I mean, I don't know about you as a player, Charlie, you must be buzzing that the crowds are back. We don't want to go back the way.
No, listen, I'm all for the passport, but you can't force people to have the injection. So
yeah, well, that's two issues, isn't it?
Yeah, it's two separate issues. As a player, if it brings, like I said, to keep the supporters on the ground, keep the atmosphere. I've been watching the golf at Wentworth this week. The atmosphere's electric. Big games. I was at the Old Firm game not before the international week, Scotland game in the week. It was brilliant, and to have that opportunity to keep it going, then why not? But if we do and we go back the way, it's going to be a huge blow for the economy and for everybody, for mental health, for other reasons. So, listen, if we can get the passport out there and it keeps the game going and these supporters being able to go and watch games, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I admire Jim Goodwin. Yesterday he was on the programme talking about, there is a need, to say, it's your democratic right not to want to take the vaccine, so he was quite strong and forceful in his opinion on it. I think there needs to be a balanced view on this one. It's a difficult one to try and steer your way through and keep everybody on side. But the ultimate thing for me is if they say it's above 4,000 people and you're going into stadiums, if you go to concerts, if you're going anywhere, where there's a huge gathering of people, the majority of people want to be safe. So, and we've had laws before that some people have felt have been restrictive, but this one for me is the most unusual. The Joint Response Group have released a statement, Alison, regarding this. This is what they had to say on the whole vaccine passports. Both the SFA and the SPFL wholeheartedly support the national effort to eradicate COVID-19. We have been in discussions with Scottish Government officials regarding the practical implications of vaccine passports. We discussed the risk of health and safety issues and crowd disorder if fans are delayed getting into stadiums. With only 3 weeks before the 1st of October deadline, we are committed to working to develop a workable solution. We're keen to explore whether any vaccine passport regime can include spot checks rather than blanket inspections of everyone. Now, I expect tomorrow down at Old Trafford, they've already highlighted to people I'll be heading down there to watch Manchester United just for the obvious Ronaldo's return.
As a Liverpool fan, by the way.
As a Liverpool fan, but listen, he's a world.
I'm just telling you, 75,000 fans will be watching this show.
Yes, absolutely.
And this mug will be plastered at the front of Old Trafford.
I want to thank you for highlighting exactly where that is. Usually I'm outed for other things, but nevertheless, Ali, they are going to do some spot checks there as well, which is fine. I'll have the registration, I'll have the barcode, the QR code there.
I think when we're confronted with something as unusual as this, I don't think there's ever going to be a response that suits everyone. You're not going to please everyone. You're going to have criticisms on either side. I think what's key to highlight is the element of choice. No one is forcing anyone to take the vaccine, but if you want to access places with significant numbers, then you have to do so because you're being mindful, or you're being asked to be mindful of the safety of everyone and not just yourself. If you don't wish to partake, then you don't have to accept the vaccine, you don't have to go through the motions of the passport, but it means that you exclude yourself from access to certain things.
Yeah.
We have these restrictions for all sorts of things. You've said the really obvious one, which is a passport. You can't leave the country without a passport. You can't go to another country without proving your identity. These are things that we've taken for granted, that you've grown up with, you're accustomed to. You wouldn't think twice about it to question it. And I think for the time being, if you want to keep a lid on the virus and you want to have as normal life experience as possible, then you have to accept that there are going to be some compromises that you might have to make in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Danny's on your case already. That's crazy. A Liverpool fan desperate to get to Old Trafford to see Ronaldo. I mean, for God's sake, I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Adam, but if I get a chance, even if I wasn't working, I would go and watch football for other games that I really fancy. I was talking to a guy you might know, Charlie Kenny Brannigan, about the fact that we would go and see games. Well, it could be. I used to go and occasionally watch Pollock, just to see the standards, the different style of players. Ronaldo is a phenomenon. I mean, I watched that interview with Piers Morgan on ITV last night, and he's just something. He's something special, and you love going to see great players. I remember when I was coming up as a boy, because I had an unusual situation where my mum took me to see football. She took me one day to see Hibs because if Celtic hadn't been winning the league all the time, she says this team would be winning the league because they're so good. And that's why I knew the Hibs team off by heart, because they're just such a great group of players. John Brownlee was magnificent, Eric Shadler, Jim Black, you had Jimmy O'Rourke, you had Alec Cropley, you had Alan Gordon. It was just a great team. Arthur Duncan. But
we spoke about it the other day, didn't we? Saying going to a Champions League game in Madrid against Bayern Munich, you go for the experience. And like you say, I'm the same. I love going and watch other games. It doesn't mean because I was an ex-Liverpool I wouldn't go to Old Trafford. I would go and see the best players. And if it was a Man United, Man City derby, I would love to go and experience the atmosphere and see these great players play. Ronaldo's one of the greatest players ever to play the game. So to get that opportunity to go to that special occasion for his comeback, then it's amazing. Some of us will probably only see it on Match of the Day or later at night, but for you to go there and experience it, it's going to be an unbelievable occasion for everybody.
Yeah, I quite like the fact that I'm getting battered on it as well anyway, though. And I love the fact that sometimes when you're in our feed, we read out as many of the messages as we possibly can who are reacting to the stories we're talking about, because at the end of the day, there are some, although we highlight sometimes the morons, there are some wonderful people with some great patter in Scottish football. I mean, I always used to moan about the Radio Clyde phone in it sometimes because it became a little bit poisonous. But there were some right good noise ups. I mean, there were guys who would phone in and actually just put on a fake voice and kid on. They were irate about something just for a laugh. It was a great noise up, And I like this one from Steve McNamara says, Jim Goodwin has been moaning the other week as well, Peter. He needs to wind his neck in, if I'm honest, or resign and stand as an MSP. So there you are.
God forbid you have an opinion. God forbid you have an opinion in Scottish football.
That's the joy of it all. Anyway, listen, the facts are fairly straightforward. As Alison mentioned as well there, and Charlie's alluded to, if you don't want the vaccine, that's your democratic right. But when the legislation comes in, some of the events you just won't be able to get into them. It's as simple as that. How it's going to be policed, I have to say I have my doubts on it, because I think financially the real driving force for the SPFL is, Alison, they're thinking, wait a minute, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to police this?
Logistically, I think it's a headache.
Yeah.
I really do. I think when you're trying to get so many people through the door, I think there were delays at Hampden the other night, just trying to get everyone in. And that's in normal circumstances. So I think if you're doing an additional check, I think the logistics of it are quite challenging. So I think spot checks would probably be the only real way to do it. I don't think there's any other way around it.
Yeah.
In which case you will get people who think, well, we'll chance our arm, and you'll take your chances of getting in and not being asked.
Yeah. You can give us your view on that. Of course, we're going to be talking about the weekend's games. Alison will be giving us her predictions, just in case you've got a spare couple of million just to shove it all on, because Ali's at the top of the leaderboard at the moment, with this fantastic scoring from her. Of course, there's lots of other topics we want to get your thoughts on. One here could lead to Ian Maxwell getting booted right out the door, because he's too sensible here. Ian Maxwell, the SFA chief executive, says, if Scotland somehow are part of this World Cup 2030 bid, he'd like to remodel Hampden to look like the Stuttgart Stadium. Well, I don't know about you, but that's the best thing that Ian has said on something that I think everybody's crying out for. Change Hampden, bring it in, make it one of those really hostile, brilliant stadiums.
I remember I was fortunate enough to go and watch Dundee Aberdeen back in the day in the Coca-Cola Cup final at Hampden, and it had the old stand, and obviously then redeveloped it, and I was actually at the game the other night thinking, if they'd only bring that in, that gap between the goal and the stand, the atmosphere would be incredible. So, like you say, it's nice that that Max is talking about a sense, and if that is possible, finances are going to be huge. But if that would be possible, I think it'd be a great idea, and it'd be a wonder. Listen, it's a terrific stadium to go and play, but the whole atmosphere would be, go up another notch if we can bring both ends in. Yeah, absolutely. For anybody who's Max's family or watching, we know he does talk sense in other areas as well. But this is just a really good one. I quite like this, Ali, because I don't know about you, but listen, people look back with great nostalgia. Hampden was a nightmare. Can you imagine going to Hampden with 136,000 and you thought, I need the toilet, and there's about 30,000 people behind me. I don't think I'm going to make it.
Well, I don't want to think about that too hard, but I hear what you're saying. I do think Hampden needs to be modernised to bring it up to speed with the current climate. I think the other night the Wi-Fi wasn't working. It's a bit ironic when you consider who the stadium sponsor is, but the Wi-Fi...
ironic. The Wi-Fi didn't work in the BT press area. So
the Wi-Fi is not working now. That's a consideration for people like you and I who are working, but it's also when you look at the audience that you're trying to appeal to, the younger demographic who are going to be WhatsApping pals during the game, or on Snapchat or on social media. I think you need to bring it up to speed with a modern environment.
We're going to the other side of the gambling situation. Is that an issue? Why the Wi-Fi? Is there a problem for things like that as well? Or,
no, it's just a complete lack of the technology in there to be able to handle it.
But like you say, we need more social media out there as the game's going on, people on social media, because it's so big, Instagram, Twitter,
Yeah.
I think if you're just sitting with
Snapchat.
a couple of teenagers at the game, that's all they do. It's
not our main gripe. Our main gripe is, more often than not, you're sitting there and the fans are all the way over that end. Too far from it. You want them right in there. I want a country to walk out at Hampden and feel intimidated. Don't feel intimidated in that stadium unless Scotland are 3 goals up. And I ask you right now, when was the last time Scotland scored 3 goals?
James Forrest hat-trick, I think.
Different class. But let's talk about that. Give us your thoughts on it as well. We're talking about the weekend's football, certainly looking forward to it. There's no doubt what the game of the weekend is. It is in Edinburgh. It is at Tynecastle. It's Hearts against Hibs. And our reporter, Gabriel Antoniazzi, is out there to cover it.
Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon from Oriam here in the country's sunny capital ahead of the first Edinburgh derby of the campaign. Hearts and Hibs joint top of the table after an unbeaten start, 10 points from their first 4 games. The match is going to be at a raucous Tynecastle on Sunday, but interestingly, the team at home have not won any of the past 8 meetings. It's something that Jambo's boss Robbie Neilson, who's just been named Manager of the Month, will try and change by any means necessary.
The message is to find a way to win the game. You know, it doesn't matter how you win it, it's about winning a derby. You know, and the players understand that. You know, it's so important for the fan base, for the club, but also for the players in the league position as well. So it's about finding a way.
Nielsen also added he expects Hibs to come toe-to-toe with his side and highlighted their attacking prowess. Of course, they've got Kevin Nisbet, Carl McGuinness and Martin Boyle, who've all been scintillating at times this season. Boyle, incidentally, has just been passed fit by his manager, Jack Ross. Now, Ross himself has lost 3 out of 4 of these Edinburgh derbies, but he's confident that his team can start to turn that around.
When you visit the home of your derby rivals and you win the game in front of your supporters that have travelled, it's emotionally it's terrific, because the whole atmosphere that's generated by it is emotionally charged. So we've experienced that, but I've experienced both sides. I've had some soreness as well in them. So all it does is just intensify your want to be on the right side of the result.
So something has to give at the top of the table, and all eyes across the country will be on Edinburgh Sunday midday.
Yeah, thanks, Gabs. Well done to Robbie Nielsen, the Glens Vodka Manager of the Month. And you look at the form of Hearts and Hibs, and it's good going into this one. It's the top of the table clash.
Yeah, no, both teams have started well. Hearts have, followed on from last season. Listen, they dominated the championship by the amount of points they won it by, and they've carried that form in, 1 defeat, and as well. Hibs are the same, 1 defeat this season. So it's going to be a cracker of a game, and will it be the curse of that Manager of the Month? You never know, do you? But I fancy 2-2, and I think it's a great game to be. It's like we spoke as well. Be a game I'd love to go and watch when the day comes to get an opportunity to go, because the atmosphere be electric at Tynecastle.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people talk about the atmosphere, for me, you're talking about a stadium that we were all mentioning earlier. It's got everything as far as being intimidating is Tynecastle. My God, you feel as if you've committed murder even when you're taking a throw in. It's crazy, isn't it? The fans are right on you. It's brilliant.
There's a lot of energy in it. I think obviously we know from sitting in it, you'll know from playing in it what it's like. But I think it's a hugely significant factor for any teams that go and play, especially on a big occasion like an Edinburgh derby game. I think it can just be fraught at times. I think you can just sense the energy and the passion of the support, and I would anticipate much of the same again this weekend.
Yeah, and Charlie's going for 4 goals, 2-2. What are you going for?
2-2. I went 2-2 as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'll be draw. I don't think there's much between them just now, and I just think Hearts might have an edge just being at Tynecastle, but I fancy that Hibs have got goals in them.
Yeah, I think there could be goals in this one, because of the fact that I like derbies when there are special players on the park that can do something. I mean, I like Gary Mackay-Stevens. Sometimes he's a wee bit, some people think he's a wee bit too,
hit and miss.
Yeah, sand dancer type, but I like him. I like Martin Boyle. I like game changers. Somebody can do something a wee bit different out of the ordinary. Boyce can score goals. Nisbet can score goals. So it's great. It's got the elements of players that can do something.
Yeah, both teams have got match winners. But if both teams that they've got, Hearts have got, for me, a top goalkeeper as well. That could make a difference. But I still think it's going to be a draw, and it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I'm going 2-1 Hearts. Simple as that. I always get pelters from everybody in our camp here who are accusing me of being a closet jambo, but I think they've just got the edge.
Sam McManus, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. He just gives me pelters every day. But I think Hearts are going to win it. What do you think? Give us your view on that one. St Johnstone Rangers, of course, this is Rangers after the international break, but still coming off the back, Charlie, of that 1-0 win over Celtic.
Yeah, a lot going on before that Celtic game, but the biggest thing for them was the performance that they had, and that'll be the benchmark now for them for going forward. So, it's a big win for them going into the international break. Now, can they come out at the back of that? Obviously, they've still got a few players missing. Hadji will miss the game at the weekend. So, the Rangers will be in good form, and St Johnstone lost 2 of their best players. So it's how they come out the international break, how they feel, if they want to feel sorry for themselves, or they have to muck in and get together again and go to January and hope that they can start picking up results like they did last season.
Yeah, Stephen Gerrard comments ahead of this match. This is what the Rangers manager had to say. At Rangers, you always want to keep hold of your best players. The club has had some healthy bids for players in the last few seasons, and the board has held strong. We've always had a plan for Robbie McCrory to prepare him to one day be a Rangers number one. I have no doubts Patterson is in the right place to develop. He loves the club and is settled here. I think a lot of players like to know that there is a pathway to the first team, Alison, and I think Patterson will probably lift a lot of the players in the reserves, thinking, listen, if we're good enough, he's going to pick us.
He's been excellent. I think he'll take a lot of confidence too from just how he acquitted himself on international duty when he played. But I think Nathan Patterson has to be chapping at the door. I think he's at a stage now, you're referencing there, going in and lifting it in the reserves, but I think he has to be in serious contention for regular starts. Just given the way that he's played, I think you risk holding him back now if you're not exposing him to regular first team football. I appreciate the position that he's going in. You've already got an established senior player there, the club captain. I don't know if there's a way to accommodate both of them, but I think it's definitely something that will be given consideration, because I don't think you can keep him on the bench for much longer. Yeah,
everybody talks about how vital it was for Rangers to keep a hold of their players or the key players, but I think maybe Stephen Gerrard would have been looking to maybe add to the situation, maybe get one in, at least another additional face, just to say to everybody, well, here we are, champions, but we've brought in a bit of extra quality. I know, Janino Bacuna's in, but I think he would have wanted someone else.
Yeah, it depends on what position. They might have went with a striker position, or Veerman was obviously talked about all summer. Got a little bit expensive, I think, for Rangers not in the Champions League.
Yeah. I'm hearing you wanted one more. Put it that way.
Yeah, well, I was the same. I was hearing one more as well. But it's either in that holding position or in the striker position. But, we talk about Patterson, who's a wonderful player. I think he'll get enough games this year, because Rangers will play 40, 50 games this year with Europe and things like that. But it's the big decision. We were talking about it in dressing room all day. What's the big decision for Stephen is that, how does he discuss with Tavernier he's going to leave him out? As club captain, what he's achieved, it's a big decision as a manager, and is that probably the biggest decision he'll have made since he's been at Rangers, as in having to leave players at the team, because the two of them, obviously Tavernier's coming back from the COVID, but Patterson has played really well for Scotland in the week, and then as a manager that's the decision you've got to make. But no, I think that you'll get enough game time between now and January, and listen, it wouldn't surprise me if more bids come in for him, because he's a top talent that's coming through, and Rangers will look to try and keep hold of him. Yeah,
if you're looking for your first win, St Johnstone manager Callum Davidson, I don't think we'll be looking at the Rangers game as, this is a great chance to get ourselves back on track. If ever you talk about somebody who's raised the bar so high with a double winning side, but I think the noose around Callum's neck at the moment that's just weighing heavy on his shoulders is everybody's battered them over the last couple of weeks for losing McCann and Kerr.
Yeah, and I think decisions like that are out with the manager's hand. I think they go significantly above what the manager's call is and above his pay grade.
It might be above his pay grade, but it has an impact on him, because if you don't win games, suddenly everybody forgets about cups.
Yeah, it has a direct impact, and I think the timing too was fairly scandalous. I think when it's coming right at the back of the window and you don't have the opportunity to go and try and replace those players and key players too. I still think the money that Ali McCann was allowed to go for, I think, is still baffling. Yeah. But that's a topic for another day.
We're having this discussion. I'm going to say the same. But is it? Why is it? What's everybody expecting? We talk about, for instance, all these players are worth this amount of money. But what should Ali McCann be worth?
Well, do you know the problem is here, and this is something that I think it's a problem with people looking and saying, this. Fans, pundits, you name it, journalists, all have a figure in their head. But the people in the know are the scouts and the chief executives and the chairman who are looking and saying, okay, what's he done? The scouts are looking at him saying, what's he done The managers then go and have a look at them and see players, know what level they're at. That's the key to it all. And you look and you say to yourself, they've watched them. If someone is such a good player that he's going to get himself a move, scouts and managers go and look at them.
Yeah.
You know, you can't fool them.
No.
You can't. The manager will turn around and go, listen, I've suggested someone's a good player, and the manager will turn around and say to me, he's not a good player. Because he's watched them, he knows, scouts know as well. They've all got their assessment and they know what type of price. Now, sometimes you do sell a player a little bit short. Now, Ali McCann was getting really good rave reviews.
Ali McCann's gone for that money because...
Is he a £3 million player?
It's because of the club he was at.
Yeah.
When was the last time St Johnstone sold somebody for, 3 million? They've never done it in their life. So why all of a sudden, why should he be 3 million? Yeah, he's played for Northern Ireland for... 7 caps for Northern Ireland, 8 caps for Northern Ireland. But it's where he is, what club he's at, St Johnstone, that dictates the value of the player as well. If he was playing for maybe a Hibs or, you look at Lewis Ferguson, people saying, £3 and £4 million. Well, it's difficult because of where he plays, So I think St Johnstone have got the add-ons. Yeah, he's undervalued because it's the Scottish League as well, and that's why the English clubs come and take the players from Scotland, because they know they're getting good players and they're not getting ripped off. Because if say for instance Preston wanted to go and buy a same player that was playing League 1 or League 2, they'd be paying £2.5 3 million for him.
Yeah.
But they know there's good value in Scotland. So if he goes now to Preston and kicks on, well, I know that there was a Premier League club trying to do the deal on the same day for him as well. They're going to have to pay £5-6 million. So the investment for Preston, it's a no-brainer for them.
And hopefully St Johnstone will have add-ons in the contract
Well,
that might
yeah,
recompense
you'd expect
them down
that.
the line. Listen, the fact is that Callum Davison has to get on with what he has, and it's maybe a free hit against Rangers, but he's still looking for a performance.
I think it's that we have got tough games ahead. We've got quite a few injuries in the camp, so it's just trying to manage the squad and make sure we can perform to a high level. I'm looking more for the performance on Saturday. Yeah, I'd love to get some of the game, and hopefully we can. But I think for me, I want the energy, I want that performance, I want that desire to go and win a game of football.
Yep, so St Johnstone against Rangers. I've got this one, the Rangers to win it by 2-1. Ali, what about yourself?
I have the same scoreline, I think.
Is that right? Oh, good, I'm following the leader.
I think Rangers will win, but I think they'll have a tough 90 minutes over the course of it, largely because I think for St Johnstone there's very little to lose. There's no real expectation that they're going to go and get their first win of the season against Rangers, but I think they'll give them a fairly difficult game up at McDiarmid Park.
Yeah, it's a difficult game. St Johnstone always think they've got to take confidence of what they've done in the European games as well, that they can compete against your Galatasarays and things like that. So Rangers always, have a tough game up there, and you'd expect Rangers to win, but listen, it's a difficult away game.
Yeah. We always on a Friday we have them on a Monday as well. Our reporter in the Northeast, Andrew Shidey, is joining us to keep us up to date with all things Aberdeen. And of course, it is indeed Motherwell against Aberdeen. We'll be talking about Celtic against Ross County shortly, but Motherwell 5th in the table after their previous 2 league games. And of course, I think everybody was talking about Tony Watt when he was on the programme, and his comments regarding how he has to keep firing the goals in to try and attract the attention of the Scotland manager Steve Clarke. And Graham Alexander doesn't see any reason why he shouldn't get a call up.
We all know what Tony's capable of. I think he knows that as well. But there's a big group of players, I believe, just outside the Scotland squad that are all fighting to get in it. And I think Tony's one of that pool, but you have to be consistently good over a significant amount of time and keep scoring. That'll certainly help his case. So we're delighted with how he's played and how he's contributed to the team.
Charlie, you know better than most what it takes to have the potential, maybe have the limelight of scoring special goals, but as many a person will tell you across any sport, talent is not enough. You need hard graft, you need application, you need the desire, you need all of those things, and you need to be able to work on yourself as an individual. Ronaldo is the classic example. Tony Watt says he's doing additional training to give him those percentage chance to be sharp as a tack.
Yeah, and listen, it's paying off, isn't it? You know, he's scoring goals, and I watched the clip about him talking about Scotland. It doesn't matter if he's scoring 30 yarders or he's scoring tap-ins. As long as he keeps scoring goals, he'll get an opportunity. We're not blessed with strikers that are scoring goals week in, week out. So if he keeps that up, he'll get an opportunity in Scotland because he's young enough still, and Steve will be looking at that. So there's plenty of time, but there's also, there's opportunities there. And if you are playing well, Steve will give you chances. You've seen that 1 minute you could be doing nothing, and all of a sudden Paul McGinn called up, gets his cap, and then you're in and around it. So it's there's hope for everybody still out there that, if you keep battling away, fighting, scoring goals, doing what you do, you get an opportunity, because Steve is always looking at the league to try and bring in the players that are in form into the squad.
Yeah, well, apart from the international break, everybody was looking at some of the activity in the transfer market just before the window closed to see, how many players that your team was signing, how good they were they able to hit the ground running. And of course, Stephen Glass has made a few signings at Aberdeen, and I'm not going to hype them up anymore, because I hyped them up at the start of the season and they fell flat in their face, and I haven't seen anything to suggest there's going to be a turn in their fortunes. I'm going to ask Andrew Shiney in a moment, but Stephen Glass himself is anticipating at Fir Park two totally different teams going head to head this time.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same as it's been before, I would say. There's relatively new manager in there for Motherwell. I've obviously been a manager for a number of years. New staff in place here, a lot of new players. So yeah, it's not going to look like the Motherwell versus Aberdeen game that it has over the last few years. But we'll see. It's a game that we're going into. We're going to try and win, and we'll hopefully come out the right side of it if we'll do our jobs right.
Well, Aberdeen have failed to beat Motherwell in the league all last season. Do you think that's going to change, Andrew Shiney, when they head down to Lanarkshire tomorrow?
I've got to take umbrage with you there, Peter, because I'm looking at the stats from the last time teams met at Pittodrie, and Aberdeen won 2-0. But
was that the cup?
It was a tough game against Motherwell. No, that was a league game in January last year. Goal from Tommy Hoban and Andy Considine won the points for Aberdeen on that occasion. But I'm looking at the Aberdeen team that played in that day. Lewis, Hoban, Taylor, Considine, Kennedy, Ojo, Ferguson, Hayes, Wright, Hedges, Cosgrove. There's only 3 of them, I think, that might play tomorrow. So it's going to be very different. And as we've said, the Motherwell team is quite different. It always seems to change radically every season. So it's a very intriguing game. Tony Watt obviously has a lot of friends at Aberdeen, because he came and he spent time training with Aberdeen for us when he was out. We didn't have a club. But he's a mercurial talent, Tony. On his day, absolutely brilliant. Other times, you do wonder, is he there? I'm hoping, for Aberdeen's sake, that it's one of those other times when I'm looking around saying, is Tony Watt actually on the pitch? But it's going to be a very tight encounter, this one tomorrow at Fir Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I'm just looking there. You're absolutely right. January 2021 is the point there that you got that 2-0 win up at Pittodrie. The other one was 0-0, and Motherwell won 3-0 up at Pittodrie in the previous game. So I've done you a complete disservice there, Andrew, on that.
Don't worry, I'll keep you right, Peter.
Oh no, absolutely. I usually look at all these stats and think, well, it needs to be better from them. But nevertheless, I did hype Aberdeen up to start with, and they've let me down badly. Have you got restored confidence because of the players they brought in? Because I think the owner has backed the manager big time.
Done. Samuel's in, and I think it's going to take time for the team to bed, but they've had 2 weeks break with internationals, so they've had a chance to get together on the training ground, and hopefully they're going to look better than they did against Ross County. I think there were signs there that things were beginning to gel, but it was quite clear that there were players in that team that hadn't played for Aberdeen before. So I think Aberdeen is very much a work in progress. It's going to be a roller coaster of a season. We're going to have ups and downs. Obviously, wearing red-tinted glasses, I'm hoping that there's more ups, but we've seen the downs already. The loss to Raith Rovers was a huge blow. Losing to Qarabag, maybe not quite so much of a blow, but it was a bit of a hit financially, because I think everybody hoped that they could get into the group stages of the Conference League. That didn't happen. Now you've taken the midweek fixtures out of the equation, so they're only going to be playing weekends. And I think more time spent in the training ground, more assimilation of players into the group, more of the players who have been there for a number of years getting used to the way that Stephen Glass wants to play might just pay dividends over the forthcoming months.
Yeah, well, I was speaking to Mikey Devlin in midweek. I mean, he's just desperate to get back fit, but he's looking and he's excited by some of the players that are there. Obviously, I think he was mentioning to me the fact he's delighted to be able to hold on to the likes of a Ryan Hedges, who I rate highly. I think he's got a brilliant left foot on him. Don't worry about being criticised for wearing red-tinted specs, Andrew. That's why you're there. We've got people on here with blue-tinted specs, and there are some people like green-tinted and Tam McManus, but nevertheless, it's great to get that little insight from you on Aberdeen and the players that they've signed, how they're going to perform, the vibe in the city of whether they're really behind them, and whether you can see by the way they're playing if it's something positive that's happening up there. Is there a player in particular that you think, obviously Ramirez apart, is there a player that he's signed that you think could be just as vital to them?
I think David Bates could be the most important signing that he makes, because at the moment we seem to have lost our way in terms of keeping clean sheets. So you go into a game always thinking, you know what, we've got to score 2 goals if we're going to win this game, because we will concede somewhere along the line. So I heard David Bates doing an interview earlier on in the week where he said he's a much better technical player now than he was when he played in Scotland, but he loves keeping clean sheets. And that is so important from a defender, because I think going forward, Aberdeen look quite decent. Austin Samuels, who's come in, blinding pace, still very young, still got rough edges about him, but he could add a different dynamic up front. But I'm absolutely with you when you talk about Ryan. When he plays, Aberdeen ticks much better. It's like Peter Weir in the old days. Fergie always used to say, see, when Peter Weir's at the top of his form, Aberdeen are unbeatable. I'm not saying that they were unbeatable if Ryan Hedges is at the top of his form, but he makes such a difference to the team going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to give, what have I gone for? Ali, I've gone for Motherwell 1, Aberdeen 2. What about you?
I actually can't remember what I've gone for.
Let me remind you, since you're leading the group at the moment, and then we'll be able to tell by Andrew's face whether he likes you or not. Motherwell 2, Aberdeen 1, Ali, is what you've gone for. Eh?
I'd watched that Tony Watt interview and just thought Motherwell might win that this weekend. Yeah, but Motherwell have been inconsistent too. It's been up and down for both of them. I fancy Motherwell might edge it tomorrow. Yeah, Charlie, listen, Charlie, even if you said Aberdeen 5, Motherwell 0, the mere fact that you've played for Rangers, you'll never endear yourself to them unless you sign for them for nothing. So what are you going for?
No, I think Aberdeen will win this.
Yeah?
I think that, this could be a game that can get the season off and running. I like what he's done, Stephen, with the signings he's brought in, Longstaff and people like that coming in the door, Bates. Aberdeen would be a good side. Like you said, it's going to take a bit of time, work in progress, but I'd fancy Aberdeen to win this. Yeah, Aberdeen to win it. You must be happy with that. Andrew, give us your overall prediction yourself.
First of all, I must say, I'm never going to say anything at all against Charlie Adam as long as he's at Dundee, because my grandson is in Dundee's academy. So he's a good man as far as I'm concerned. I think I tend to go along forward to the game. I think it will be quite exciting.
Yeah. What was your prediction there? You just cut out at the crucial time with the way you hold the mic.
2-1 to Aberdeen.
2-1 to Aberdeen. Okay, there you are. And his grandson is at the Dundee Academy. So,
keep an eye out.
So there you are. That's good news. Andrew giving you some positive feedback there. Great to hear from Andrew Shiney, as ever, keeping us up to date with what's happening with Aberdeen in the North East, and always good to get Andrew's take on it. And quite a lot of people will be aware of the fact that sometimes when Andrew's on, he stages what's in the background when I'm chatting to him. And as you can see there, the entire collection of Dolly Parton and CD, and of course he refuses to throw out his Betamax videos. So there you are. That's absolutely magnificent. Dolly, of course, still number one up there in the Dons area. Brilliant to hear from Andrew. Absolutely first class. And I'm not going back to him because I know he'll absolutely hammer me. So thanks to Andrew for that. Brilliant stuff. What about Celtic? How big a blow is Kyogo?
It's huge. I think it's huge. I think the only relief might have been that it's only going to be a month. I think there was an indication it could have been longer when he limped out that game against China midweek. But I think what, 7 goals in 11 games he has. But I think his influence has been more than just the goals he scored. I think he gave everyone a lift at a time when the club was floundering a bit on the back of the Champions League exit and the defeat at Tynecastle on the opening night of the season. I think he came in and his movement, his intelligence with the ball, I think his creativity, I just felt as though you could sense the energy and the confidence that it gave people going through the whole team. So I think taking that out now, and when you also add it to the loss of Odsonne Edouard, who's left, and the fact that Ryan Christie has also gone and Lee Griffiths has gone up to Dundee on loan, then I think it can be a headache for Celtic.
Well, listen, before you even get to the point of getting your predictions on this, obviously from our own point of view, the news is just breaking and it's just come out right now, and I'll tell you, this has certainly caught everyone on the hop. I'm just going to read it out. There's news just come out of Celtic Football Club. Dom Mackay has left Celtic. Celtic Football Club have announced today that the Chief Executive, Dom Mackay, stood down from his position as Chief Executive for personal reasons. The directors are pleased to confirm that Michael Nicholson, the club's current Director of Legal and Football Affairs, will assume the role of Acting Chief Executive Officer and Director of the company. Michael has been a Senior Executive of Celtic for 8 years and has been at the heart of decision making at Celtic, working closely with the CEO and the football department. And commenting on the announcement, Chairman Ian Bankier has said, "We thank Dom for his efforts on behalf of the club, and everyone wishes Dom and his family very well for the future. I would also like to welcome Michael to the board and look forward to continuing to work with him to deliver future success for the club." Dom Mackay has released a statement saying, "I'd like to thank the board and everyone at Celtic for their support and wish everyone at Celtic every success for the future." Now, forgive me for being a cynic on this one. Personal reasons is something that leaves us all to speculate wildly on this one, Alison. But he's gone. That is a big, big call.
I think it'll take everyone by surprise. I think there were some noises last night about this, and I think first impressions were that it was little more than chat. There seemed to be a bit of substance to it today as the day was going on. I would have no idea about what the circumstances are behind it, but I think it's surprising given the short time that he's obviously been in the role. I think maybe he's been keen to get the transfer window over and done with, to make sure that there's a manager in place, to make sure that there have been players come in. Celtic signed 12 players in the last window. They needed a fairly substantial overhaul. I think the work has begun on that. I think it'll probably take a few windows to get the squad that the manager wants, but he may feel that he goes now with the club significantly more stable than what it was in June, July when he took over, but I don't think anyone would have envisaged that his tenure was going to stretch to a 3-month hold, and it remains to be seen now what happens. I think had Michael Nicholson wished to take that position on a permanent basis, I think he would have taken it when Peter Law was stepping down. I think he's very well thought of within the club. I think he's more than capable of taking on that role, so it maybe just opens it up again to a fresh chief executive coming in.
Well, listen, I'm not going to speculate on personal reasons, but what I would say is, if anything, we can all comment on rumours, gossip, the chit-chat that we hear. If anything, in his short term in control as the CEO, I just heard whispers of, the difficulty of passing over the baton from Peter Lawwell, who was not, for me, Peter Lawwell was not just a chief executive.
No,
he had so much other skills in other areas and a lot of power. And he had a certain style of doing things, whether it be transfer deals, how he conducted things at the club. And Dominic Mackay would have been a different person handling Celtic. And that, for me, was the only kind of whisper I had, was the change in style of one chief executive to the next. But whether he was doing it well or not is, you know, something that everybody will debate once the real reason for his departure.
It's difficult to speculate. He's obviously said family reasons, so you have to respect that. But, you know, it was big shoes to fill. It's the same, you know, we talk about, is it, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson left Man United, and it's taken them this long now to start to get some sort of, you know, stability in the football club, because they were sacking managers left, right and centre. So Celtic's the same, that, you know, when Peter left, it was a huge blow for the football club, on and off the pitch. You know, a manager left, they had to find a new manager, there was 12 players, all these players leaving the football, wanted to leave. So, no, Dominic Mackay's come in, he's stabilised it for 3 months. It's obviously been a difficult decision. He's come in, and Michael Nicholson, who's been in the club for 8 years, knows the ins and out of what has been going on. So he'll have that transition going into the football club, so it'll not be a problem. Peter will obviously still be in the background as well, which I understand wouldn't be a silly decision to ask for advice, because, you know, the experiences he's had, you won't see him probably in the forefront.
Yeah.
But he'll still be there for advice for Michael moving forward, and you know, that's what happens at big companies, and you know, be somebody ready else to come in and fill Michael Nicholson's shoes if he does step up to this chief executive role on a permanent basis.
Yeah, listen, everybody can have the debate of whether he stabilised the club in 3 months. If anything, I think people were looking at him to try and galvanise the club as a chief executive and bring his own thoughts and the way that he could take them forward, and a fresh approach to dealing with club matters. That hasn't materialised, and I think, you know, a lot of people will look and say, well, listen, they're in limbo, and now it's up to Michael, who's been there a considerable amount of time, to try and take it forward. Whether he's there on a short-term basis, only time will tell. If he's there for the foreseeable future, then he has his chance to stamp his own authority
possibly
on it.
got so many, like, you know, Dermot Desmond's son might come in, Ross, and be part of the club as well. Something like that might materialise. So we'll wait and see, but it's it's a difficult decision to go after 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have just joined us on the programme, that is that breaking news. Celtic Football Club announced today Chief Executive Don Mackay stood down from his position as Chief Executive for personal reasons. So we will wait to see if that story develops. But Michael Nicholson is now the acting CEO at Celtic. He's been a director and on the board at Celtic for around 8 years. So a wealth of experience there for Michael to take on board and offer his own take on how he moves Celtic forward. So from that to what's happening on the pitch, Celtic are taking on Ross County, trying to bounce back. We've talked about the blow of Kyogo not being there. Of course, Ange Postecoglou has mentioned the fact that it could be a month without the star from Japan.
As everyone's aware, he picked up an injury playing with the national team. So we've got him back, and initial assessment, you know, we're looking at least 3 to 4 weeks at this stage. So, which means he'll miss sort of the next few games. But at the same time, he's pretty optimistic about you know, working hard to get back. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, so he'll be out. A chance for Giakoumakis to come in there maybe and let the Celtic fans get a look at him, because this game sold out. You can't get a ticket.
Yeah, it's the first game. You know, a proper 60,000 will be there, and the Greek lad coming in. It's how fit he is to maybe start the game. It's either that or a Yeti. You don't know. But Furuhashi, I think, is a big blow for him. I think he set the tone for the team going forward in the performances. You know, he come on against Hearts and he got clattered after about 15 seconds, and I think he realised that.
Welcome to Scotland.
Well done to Scotland. But apart from that, he's picked up, and his performances, you know, in the games he's played, he was much better when he went through the middle in the Old Firm game. So no, it's a blow for Celtic as the team, but you know, they'll have players to come in and still, you know, at home you'd expect them to win against Ross County at home.
Yeah, no James Forrest, but James McCarthy fit and available for this one. Of course, Celtic have made significant signings along the way. Liam Scales was talking only yesterday. Ange Postecoglou reckons now that the window is closed, he has a group that are all working in the same direction towards moving Celtic forward.
Every deal we made, had a lot of work behind it. So we bought in, I think, 12 in the end, which I think is probably too many in one window, to be fair, but that's what we needed, and we needed to do that. And in the end, I think I'm pretty pleased with the outcome in terms of, we know what we've got now. We know the players who are in are committed for the next period, and we can start working.
Ali, how do you assess Celtic when you see all the signings that they've made now? Have they managed to satisfy the demands of the Celtic fans?
No, I actually think the injury to Kyogo eliminates the fact it's still quite light in terms of the squad. I'm not sure there's the sufficient depth to cope on a two-pronged front of European and domestic football. I think people would have liked to have seen another striker come in, as you're seeing now. There are issues there when you lose a forward. I think there could have been another creative midfielder. I think there could have been a left full back. Listen, I think managers and fans, I'm not sure they'll ever be happy. I think you could always look and expect more or want more. But I take his point. I think Ange Postecoglou makes a hint there about having players now that want to be at the club. I think that's important too. I think once you've got players who are committed, who know that they're there for their foreseeable future, you're not looking over your shoulder at what might be coming next or other clubs or what the next move might be. I think that can be vital just in restoring some sense of stability and everyone being on the same page in terms of moving forward. But I think on the whole, I think it was a busy window. I'm not sure that you would ever see 12 players coming in as the ideal. I think it's maybe just too much flux and too much change all at once. But you know the circumstances as to why that happened this summer. But I think it points to maybe the need for a head of recruitment and a director of football and modernising the infrastructure of the club so that essentially when you get to every window you're ticking over and you're making tweaks rather than you're being put in a position where you need to make wholesale changes to a squad.
Yeah. And that's where I see the difference between Rangers and Celtic at the moment. Rangers are just bringing ones and twos. That influx of players, of 12 players, is going to be difficult because you have international break in September, October, November. And also they're playing European games, so they don't have much time to train as a group to work on things. And he's obviously had his pre-season, but
he's found out to his cost he's losing players.
So he's losing players. So to now bring in other players, trying to get them fit, find into a shape and a way of playing, is going to be difficult for them. So they have to try and keep picking up wins and performances like that, and it's going to be difficult. But listen, they've got enough quality there, and it just shows they are a bit light in that forward area.
It's a free hit for Ross County. Still looking for the first win of the season, but I don't know. I've just got this feeling that Malcolm Mackay will get it right. Maybe, Celtic is indeed a free hit for him, but maybe his players need to bed into the way he wants them to play.
Ross County have given Celtic problems in recent seasons. They were a bit of a bogey team last season. And as you say, you go with the pressure and the expectation is all on Celtic.
Yeah. I'm glad you narrowed it down to Ross County were a bogey team for Celtic.
You go and you make it as difficult as you can and you don't let Celtic play. I think you look to, if you want to sit with 10 men behind the ball, if that's the way you want to play to try and escape with something, then that's what you do. And you ask questions of Celtic and invite them to come and test you.
I've got Celtic 3-0.
I think I have 3-1. I don't know that I would trust Celtic to keep a clean sheet.
Okay, Charlie?
I think Celtic will win.
Okay. Dundee, Livingston, really looking forward to this one to see if indeed, of course, the Dundee fans will be licking their lips at the prospect of Lee Griffiths coming back for the second time and setting the heather on fire, because they liked him first time around. Yeah, he scored goals, and when you've got somebody that can score goals, is obviously, listen, it adds a bit of pressure to us as a group. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing him tomorrow. He's trained the last 2 weeks well, played in the bounce game,
and it'll be up to the manager now to see if he puts him in. So we've got, him, Jason Cummins, we've got Kelly and Sheridan. So we got 3 strikers in there that can play through that middle. And it'll be a tough game. David Martindale's done an excellent job for them for a certain period last season, and they fell off at the end. So we've got to try and pick up on that, and hopefully we can get a win, because we need it. If we can get the first win, then hopefully it propels you to for the few tough games coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's early days. Even though Charlie's here, I would say that even without Lee Griffiths, I thought they were not going to be in the bottom end, battling it out. I've still got Livingston there, and I had Motherwell in the playoff position. But I think with Griffiths fit, they'll be middle table, pushing for top 6.
I think the key point is Lee Griffiths staying fit. I think it's a while since he was able to sustain form throughout the entirety of a campaign. Now, he had something to say about that himself. The perception from us is only what we've been told by managers, that he's not been fit enough to play for 90 minutes every other week. So I think a lot will come down to his own individual ability to get the head down now, get training, and make sure he's doing the right things on and off the pitch to ensure that he's inclusive in that squad and that he's playing every week.
We mentioned Jim Goodwin at the start of the programme, of course, to matters on the field. And Jim, as ever, I rate him highly as a coach, and he reckons he's got more than enough on his side to see off Dundee United.
Yeah, they've got some good players who know the league well, and obviously they'll be coming here wanting to make amends for the result against Hearts. But from our own point of view, we feel that we have got a good enough group here to go and take the game to Dundee United and hopefully get our first league win of the season. Okay,
I can't separate them. Charlie, I've got 1-1.
Yeah, there's not much in between the two teams. I think it could be a draw as well.
Yeah.
I think I went for a draw.
Yep, you did. Okay. Just before we go, a couple of quick points I want to get your thoughts on. Of course, let's not forget that tomorrow at Old Trafford, the number 7 is back there.
The prodigal son, Cristiano Ronaldo, will return to Old Trafford this weekend as a Manchester United player for the first time since he left 12 years ago. The 36-year-old scored 118 times in 292 matches over 6 successful years in the Northwest, helping bring 3 league titles and the Champions League to United as a winger. But since he moved on, he's become a goal-scoring machine. 4 league titles, 4 Champions League, 4 Ballon d'Ors, the European Championships, and endless goal-scoring records have followed, with 641 goals scored for Real Madrid, Juventus and Portugal since 2009. Despite his age, the number 7 has shown no signs of slowing down and has insisted he's not back in England for a vacation. Nothing ever phases the Portuguese great, but bringing the Premier League back to United after 8 years in the wilderness will be one of his biggest challenges yet.
It's going to be really special. Here's how we think United might line up. Will Ronaldo be there in the side, or will he have to play his way in? We've been joking, will he have to play his way in and just wait for Martial to lose for him? I don't think so. De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Shaw, Pogba, McTominay, Greenwood, Bruno, Sancho and Ronaldo. I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, you mentioned Cavani, who is a special player, but Ronaldo, I reckon the roof will come off that place when he walks on with the number 7.
Oh, it's going to be phenomenal, isn't it? I think McTominay probably still injured. But that team now, it's a different team. Varane, that spine in that team, Pogba, Sancho, Ronaldo, it hypes the pressure. And I was talking to Dan Fletcher the other day, and he was saying he's just brought a different dimension to the whole football club again with his personality, his presence, and it was a no-brainer of a signing when it was available, and it was great to see. I said before, one of the greatest players ever to play football. Yeah,
and the way he walked onto an empty Old Trafford there, big shyness, not lacking in confidence, is he, Ali?
I don't think we need to worry about any self-doubts or any arm round the shoulder about quiet words in the ear.
I think you worry about the crowd, the 75,000, if he misplaces a pass.
No, I don't think it. Well, to be fair, by the way, his first pass will be probably a shot, but of course he'll be pointing to the back of the jersey, and who knows, he may even pick up a yellow card for taking the jersey off as well. Incredible player, and really one of the true greats, a world great. Is he the greatest ever? it's open to debate. It's always a good one. Talking of greatest ever, some people think it's Messi. Well, he broke Pele's record for a South American and international football hat-trick in Argentina's World Cup qualifier over Bolivia. 79 goals for Argentina, taking him past Pele's 77 for Brazil. A phenomenon as well. Messi is an absolute joy.
It's extraordinary. It's just...
we might never see the likes again, Ali. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I think both of them are very different personalities, or certainly come across as very different personalities. I'm not out having a drink with Messi and Ronaldo, I like to tell you, but I think they come across as very different in how they approach the game. But I think you just have to applaud what both of them have offered over the last 10, 15 years.
But no, it's amazing. Like Ronaldo goes and scores 2 goals against Republic of Ireland, and then Messi does a hat-trick the next day. That's just what they do. It's like they're fighting against each other. Like we spoke about it, like, you know, Messi goes and signs for PSG. Everybody's talking about Messi, and Ronaldo goes, hold on a minute, nobody's talking about me, so I'll just go and sign for Man United, and everybody's talking about that. It's just the way they are, and that's, you know, it's just brilliant to see that, you know, people write them off saying, you know, they finished and all that. Still wouldn't surprise me if Ronaldo come and being top goal scorer in the Premier League this year.
Yeah, I agree with
think
you.
he's got everything still.
You're absolutely right, Charlie. I don't think too many people disagree with you. He'll definitely hit double figures. Just how many? And can he get United into contention for the title? Are they good enough to win the title with Ronaldo in there? It's all about opinions on that. But there's no doubt about it, when eventually Messi and Ronaldo hang up their boots, the DVD will be an absolute bestseller, to be perfectly honest with you. Just before we go, I did mention to Charlie and Alison, you know, I was in the company of greatness sitting next to one of the greatest ever British managers of all time in Sir Alex Ferguson in midweek. It was a joy listening to him and getting the insight into the Ronaldo deal and other players that he's worked with along. I could have sat next to him and busted his ear for
It was also great to see him healthy for what he went through.
Yeah.
You know, with the brain issue he had, and, you know, obviously Walter Smith was there as well, and people like that. So no, it was great to see them, you know, out and in this, you know, mad world that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see Sir Alex looking healthy, and of course Walter as well. Sir Alex is one of those managers that you can rhyme off 5 or 6 of the absolute greats in British football down through the years, from Bill Shankly. Let's not forget Bill Nicholson as well, was an absolutely top drawer manager. But of course Bob Paisley in there. Sir Alex Ferguson is ultimately in there as well. Brian Clough for me is worthy of mention as a British manager. And of course, on this 36th anniversary of his passing in the game between Wales and Scotland, a World Cup qualifier, this is the anniversary. 36 years have passed. September 10th, 1986. Sadly, we lost Jock Stein, who passed away on this very day. And if there's ever a manager that would have loved to have been able to sit down with and interview, it was Jock Stein. But gone but not forgotten, certainly not by Fergie and many other great managers and players who had the joy to work alongside him. Jock Stein, remembered and certainly not forgotten. Rest in peace. 36 years today, he sadly passed away. Enjoy your football this weekend. Of course, this could be the start of having to go to football, not only with a season ticket, but you might need a vaccine passport in the future. Oh, how the game is changing week to week. Thanks to Charlie Adam. Good luck for Dundee over the weekend. Thanks to Alison McConnell, from myself, Peter Martin. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on the YouTube channel. And the good news is this here has been won by Zoe Marcel. Well done to you, Zoe. You are the winner of the Tony Watt signed shirt. And the question was, quite simply, as well as having to subscribe, Zoe had to tell us what was the number that Tony Watt wears on the back of his shirt when he plays for Motherwell. And there is the answer. Tony Watt, number 32. Zoe Marcel, who's a Motherwell fan, this is on its way to you, and it's been signed by Tony as well. Next week, providing the queue is not a mile long at Old Trafford, I think we might have another jersey to give away. That's all I'm saying to you, Charlie. If it's a mile long, I ain't standing in it. That's a cert. Anyway, from Alison, Charlie and myself, Peter Martin, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.